Mark Twain once famously said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. So all of you are at that juncture when you are finishing off your education either very soon or in the next couple of years. And then obviously, there's no better time to start. I'm sure you've heard about some of the most successful entrepreneurs have actually done that out of their college dorms or directly after college itself. So it's something that you have to think about. Is this something that you would like to be embarking on a journey? And to motivate you to be able to think more along a journey like this, let's look at a simple success story. How many of you sitting here in the audience have heard about this company called Zerodha? Can I see some show of hands? Because I have the screen open where I can see some of y'all. Okay, I can see some hands up here. Fantastic. Looks like a lot of you are very smart investors. Looks like within this VJTI fraternity. So if you really look at the data out here, what you can see is that not too long back, just in the year 2015, Zerodha had, this is the number of active customers that they had, right? 30,000 customers. That's it. And over a period of just about 4 years, they grew in terms of market share to get 12.3% of the market. That's a phenomenal kind of a jump in just a matter of 4 years. A company that started in the year 2010, which by 2015 had just come to about 30,000 users, they grew exponentially and they became by that India's biggest stock brokerage company in terms of volume of trade. And look at who are all the people they beat. They beat companies like ICICI Securities, HDFC Securities, Sher Khan, Kotak, Axis, Angel Broking, Motilal Oswal. These were the 80,000 pound gorillas in this space. And this small entity out of nowhere, they came in and they grabbed, which is something which is hitherto unbelievable kind of an achievement, a lion's market share. In a lot of startup space, if even if you're able to occupy a couple of percentage of a market, you're a success. And here they are grabbing a double digit, 12.3% of the market within just a period of 5 years. Now, isn't that an amazing achievement? Now, let's really go behind the scenes and look at what else can you really look at. So, this company was set up by two brothers. Anybody know the names? You can type it in the chat if you want. These are the two faces that you can see out here. Okay. So some of you might have got it right. Yes, Nitin and Nikhil Kamath. That's right, the Kamath brothers. Absolutely correct. So they put together this company using a combination of a word which is Zerodha, which is combination of zero and Rodha. So Rodha is a Sanskrit word that means obstructions. So the whole purpose of their business was, the goal of the business was to ensure that there are no obstructions that their customers face when they really do this. So both of these brothers brought in discount broking, a completely new concept. They had product innovation because they truly stood out of the crowd, right? They created a distinctive identity for themselves. They had a very robust technology platform that they really built this upon. And this is thanks to a CTO who joined them early on in the 2010. They had credibility and trust built through their initial set of customers whom they delivered fantastic value. And the most amazing part of all, they had no expenditure, zero expenditure on marketing. Now, to imagine a company that can come in from scratch without really spending on marketing to be able to achieve what you can now look at the success story, if you understand what it means, is that they are the newcomers to the Forbes list of India's richest in 2020. Their net worth is estimated at 24,000 crores. And I'm sure you've seen the recent news, right? About it, they came in the news very recently, just about last week, for the kind of salaries that the board approved. I know they are not taking home that kind of money right now, but up to 100 crores, right? For both the brothers as well as that strength. Yes, yes, just 100 crores. I mean, it's not that they're drawing that money out, but obviously they have the option to be able to be paid up to a 100 crores kind of salary. And why would you deny them that? Isn't that a success story, which is a phenomenal success story from nothing to be building an organization without any funding, without anything else, just the fundamental aspects of the business. And if this cannot be a story that inspires people, then I wonder what will inspire people, because this is a fantastic story. A young bunch of two brothers who started off and they really, really made it very big. I think they are really the poster boys of the Indian startup world if you really look at it from that point of view. So I'm not saying that this is exactly what Zerodha did, but as an business, there are some basics that you need to understand if you really want to build a business. And if you really look at some of the things they did, you might be able to understand that they align to some of these things. Let's really look at it. What is it? So let's really start up with a concept, right? Most of you, when you start off your business, you start off a business as a startup. Now, what is a startup? The basic definition of a startup is that it's a temporary organization and search of a scalable, repeatable, and profitable business model. So these are the three important elements that you need to understand that if you decide to start up a business. That in the beginning, you're just identifying a business model that will work. And how should it work? It should be scalable, it should be repeatable, and it should be profitable. If those three criteria are being met, then you can ensure that you can grow. And profitable is not necessarily in the short run. Profitable can be in the longer run also. Like you might have the examples of Flipkart, right? Highly unprofitable even today, or even you could Amazon, maybe unprofitable even right now, but ultimately in terms of scalable, repeatable, and the potential for profits that you can really derive, it's phenomenal. That is the whole point. That is the business model should be strong. And the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is a startup is never a smaller version of a large company. A startup is very, very different from a large company. And that is a fundamental reason why there are so many significant challenges that when a startup starts growing, what are the challenges it really faces? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Right? So I hope that you have the motivation to start up. When you do start up, ensure that you focus upon these three things, ensuring a profitable, a repeatable, as well as a scalable solution. And then once you are able to tackle that, and once you get that in place, you can then start going to the next one. What does the next level really consist of? So again, similar quote to what I put earlier, you know, it's a company that is confused. A startup is a company that is confused about what its product is, who its customers are, how to make money. And that's absolutely fine to be confused in the beginning as long as you are on the right path subsequently. So this is the various startup stages that you land up going through. You'll have a formation where you need to have a clarity about your mission, your vision, your strategy. Now, a lot of people turn around and say, hey, mission or something like that is relevant to only large companies. I disagree with them. Because mission is something that even as an individual, just about the start of the meeting, I spoke about what is my mission or my purpose for the existence of my firm. So it's very important that you have clarity on that thought process. And that ensures that you can attract in the right kind of co-founders as well as the right kind of a team. If you know your why, right? Like Simon Sinek says, start with why. If you know your why very clearly, it helps you to attract the right kind of people to be a part of your organization. And that is very, very critical for you to go. So the right co-founders really come into the picture if you have the right why, as well as you have clarity around your thought process. And then once you go across, you get into a validation mode, right? The validation mode is where you might iterate, you might have a lean, you might follow the lean methodology, you might iterate your business model several times till the time you figure out what is the model that really works. You'll create a minimal viable product. You'll ensure that you validate and iterate. So this stage is a lot of iteration. Make as many experiments as you can in the market, because the more experiments you do, the more successful you'll be, because you'll not come out with a suboptimal model. You'll come up with a model which is highly effective. And then you really go to the phase of growth, that once you identified, like I said, a model that works for you, then you really start growing. And this is the reason why scalable and repeatable, those two elements come into play. You might have a successful model, but if it is not scalable, then anyway you're not able to grow your business and grow your company. So this is where the key, these are the fundamentals that you really need to have in place when you start hitting what is possibly a growth curve. Now, going ahead, this is something that a lot of people are oblivious to. You really don't see this as it is, that there is something that is known as the valley of death in between the various stage that you hit when you grow a company. And this is a study of 28 million firms that was done in the US. And when they analyzed the data for the company that started for a certain period of time, that started off, they found that 96% of the companies stayed below the $1 million revenue mark. $1 million is obviously about 7.5 crores of Indian revenue, you can say in that sense of the term, and that is where they flounder. A lot of companies stay stuck ultimately only below 96% of the company are stuck below that 1 million. They cannot break through. Why? Is because of those two elements we spoke about earlier: repeatable, scalable, right? They've not discovered that kind of model. Now, once you start going from there onward, what you really have, each stage that you move through from 1 million, if you go from less than million to more than million, then from million to 10 million, and then onwards, what you really have is the number of companies keeps coming down dramatically. Only 4% of the companies cross $1 million. Only 0.4 of the percentage of the companies cross in terms of $10 million, and only 17,000 companies really grow bigger than that. And between each of them is something that is known as the value of death. What is the value of death? What it really means is what made you successful till now will not work in the next stage. So if you do not change what you do, you might have been successful getting there at this point of time, but you have to relearn. An old dog needs to learn new tricks to be able to grow. So if you continue persisting in terms of what things you were doing till now, it will never help you to go to the next stage. So this is the value of death. You have to unlearn, relearn, as well as get into new elements as well as new models of what you need to do. And these are the value of deaths, which most companies flounder and get stuck in, and they really can't make it out of that. So this is something that you have to be mindful of when you build a business. That once you start growing, this is something you have to be careful about. Otherwise, you are going to get stuck into any of these, and then you plateau out. Your business typically plateaus out. That's what you see a lot of businesses in the world really stuck up at, as it is. So what they really say is each of these places, when you reach each of those points of value of death, it's an inflection point. You make the smart moves, and then you again get into the exponential growth curve, or you do not really, you get stuck in what has worked for you before. See, the danger always is that what has worked for you before is something that you're happy doing ahead, because you know it's worked for you in the past. Unfortunately, in the business world, if you cannot move ahead of that, then you can really plateau or even start going down. So this is the inflection point that each startup entrepreneur needs to learn, relearn, unlearn, all at the same point of time. And that is the only way that you can get an exponential growth again. So these are the inflection points that you have to be mindful of. Now, there are typically three barriers to growth, and this is something that somebody was asking me as a question, right? What are the things that you should be mindful of? So there are three fundamental barriers to growth that you always have in any business. And if we understand these three barriers, if we understand what they are, and if we prepare our business to be able to tackle these barriers, then you are able to ensure that you get through some of these. Now let's understand this in more detail. What are the three? The first is leadership. The second is scalable infrastructure. And the third is marketing effectiveness. So these are your three barriers to growth. Now, again, somebody asked me a question earlier, why do I get associated with entrepreneurs and Toastmasters? I think you can see the answer right in front of you. In Toastmasters, we learn all about leadership, and we see the first barrier to growth is actually leadership. So that is the reason why I stay committed to Toastmasters, because I see the value that a Toastmasters program brings to startup leaders, brings to startup organizations. Why is it important to build leadership? This is the reason why. And we'll talk a little bit more about what is the facets of leadership that you should be aware about. So which facets of leadership that we need to be aware about? So in terms of leadership, when we really talk about it, there are three components again in leadership. One is the ability to predict. Now, this is something which startups founders need to really develop as a skill, as a strength. And it's not about being miles ahead of the market or the competition or anything else like that, but minutes ahead. Can you look beyond the curve? Can you see something that others cannot see? And how do you really get that? You get that only when you have frequent interaction with customers, competitors, and employees. And this is so very crucial. These conversations are the the headlights that will throw light upon what is around the corner, which you can't really see yourself. Because no matter how much you understand your market, your customers, your employees, your competitors are in the same space, and there is so much more they can do. So the whole logic of being a startup founder, the goal ultimately should be, can you spend at least 80% of your time in market facing activities? I know a lot of you come from a technology, like VJTI is obviously a technology institution, and a lot of startup founders are domain experts. They are really good in their domain. They might be really good in technology, might be really good in something which is connected to building the products. But my dear friends, you'll have to understand this. Even if you come with those as your fundamental strengths, very soon, if you cannot move out from that into market-facing activities, then you're anyway going to be challenged. So this is one thing that Toastmasters really teaches you, right? How do you communicate? How do you connect? How do you be able to be effective in gathering inputs, in listening carefully? So all of these things you really learn. So this is exactly what you do as a first element of your leadership criteria, that is prediction. What is the second thing that is important in leadership? Is the ability to delegate. Now, again, the delegation also evolves as you grow. If you're a company with less than 10 people, then what you should do is delegate your weak areas. In the beginning, when you're a single person company, just two of you all, you're doing everything, it doesn't matter. But once you start growing to about 10 people, then you start delegating your weakest area. This is not my strength, give it to somebody else to do who's the strength as it is. Now, interestingly, once you grow between 10 to 50 people, then you start delegating your strong areas. Now, that's strange, isn't it? But that is the reality. Like I said, if you might be good in technology, doesn't matter. You have to delegate your strong areas also after a point of time. And 50 plus, once you grow, you need to develop leaders inside your organization to be able to grow. Now, isn't that what you learn in Toastmasters too, right? How do you ensure that you delegate? When you're running the XCOM of a club, you do have other people who manage different roles. When you grow as an area director, you might be helping other people now to do that. So that means you're not trying to do it yourself, even though you're good at it, you're having somebody else doing it. And when you are growing larger than that, what you're really developing is leaders. You're developing more and more leaders around you who can be strong enough. As a division director, your biggest focus is how do you develop good area directors in the next term and stuff like that, right? So this is something that you automatically learn in the process. Now, I'm not here trying to sell Toastmasters to the other people who are not from Toastmasters, but I'm just trying to give a connection between how it really works together, right? And it all boils down to in delegation, how do you focus upon the priorities? How do you measure the progress? How do you give feedback? And how do you have rewards and recognitions? Again, feedback, an important part of what you learn in Toastmasters. So this is the integration of how leadership really comes into play in a startup world if you run a business, because these are key essential skills that if you lack, then you will challenge. And what is the third area of leadership that you need to focus upon is reputation. How do you ensure that you keep focusing upon the core values, the core purpose, the BHAG? The BHAG is known as the big, hairy, audacious goal. This is Jim Collins. It's a statement. This is the word coined by Jim Collins. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. What is it that you have as a big, hairy, audacious goal for your business, as well as your priorities and themes? And how do you ensure you repeat that enough so that your entire team, your organization is clear upon it? So communication. How do you effectively communicate this again and again and again, right? So these are the three fundamental areas under leadership: prediction, delegation, and reputation. And when you master these skills, then at least you're taking out one barrier, which is leadership, to be able to scale and grow your business. Now let's talk about the second barrier that we have beside leadership. The second barrier is scalable infrastructure. Now, what is scalable infrastructure? It is the infrastructure that is really supporting your organization and business as you grow. And if you cannot really ensure that you have a scalable infrastructure, then you are stymied for growth. Your growth will be restricted and limited. Now, just for example, I've given this that when you are between 10 to 30 employees, you should ensure that you have a more structured space. Like less than 10, it doesn't matter. Everybody is working from anywhere, it doesn't make a difference. You might be working from anything. As you start growing, I know in a new world now of remote working, the structured space might be virtual. It doesn't necessarily need to be a physical structured space. But even in a structured space, you need collaboration platforms. You need the ability to be able to communicate swiftly, effectively. You can't be relying upon outward. So you might be needing new tools, new systems to be able to do that. So that is what we mean when we say structured space. Once you grow beyond 30 to 75, do you have the right accounting systems in place to really manage your business? Once you go from 75 to 250 people, the right HR systems, the right IT systems, because bringing them early enough doesn't really help. You have to get them at the right time. And then when you go to 250 plus, how do you need upgrading and revamping what you have? Because you cannot build completely for the future. You have to build only till a certain threshold and then keep scaling it as you go along. And you might need to revamp whatever you've done so far. So these are the fundamentals of the scalable infrastructure that you have to focus upon as a business leader, as a founder of a business. Now, what is the third area we spoke about? Was marketing effectiveness. Now, marketing effectiveness, it is the number one functional barrier to the growth of any business. If you cannot figure this piece out, then obviously you are doomed to be stuck into a certain level only. The key to attracting new customers, investors, talent, partners, as well as advisors who can help you. If you have these right set of people, if you're able to attract the right set of people to be along with you, and it's not only customers, like I said, investors are so crucial. Do you have investors coming to you? Are you able to position yourself in the external world in such a way that people keep coming to you? I'll give you a story about one of our entrepreneurs who was a part of our club in Pune. He joined our club, became pretty good in terms of speaking in public. He started getting invited to conferences as a keynote speaker. He became part of panel discussions. Now, automatically, if he's on stage and his name and his company name is being shared out there publicly, automatically investors get interested in you. Partners get interested in you. They will end up approaching you. Hey, we like to work with you, right? Employees come to know your name. So it's so many benefits that you really have out of this. So there is a lot of stuff that you can really do here by having a weekly marketing meeting where you focus on the 4 Ps. How do you focus upon who are the top 25 influencers in your industry so that you can get them interested in what you do or talking about what you do. There are various things that you could possibly do here, but this is the third barrier. So again, to repeat, what are the 3 barriers? The first was leadership. The second is scalable infrastructure. And the third is marketing effectiveness. So once you take care of these 3 barriers, then when you are tackling those fundamental blocks, right, that 1 million to, maybe possibly upwards, you're able to break through. Otherwise, then you're doomed to be below that 1 million, doomed to be a part of those 96% of the company, doomed to be a company that lands up, you give it up after a point of time saying that, hey, I'm not able to attract investors, I'm not able to attract customers, I'm not able to attract the right kind of employees. And then any which way as a business, you are at a dead end, right? So these are the 3 barriers that need to be worked upon, not only in the beginning, but at a later point of time also as you keep growing. So this is the first fundamental information that I'm sharing with you, that when you go out and build your business, ensure that you keep these elements in mind, and then you tackle what is your big idea, right? Along with it, as it is parallel to it. Now, moving on, this is again, I'm sure all of you know Larry Ellison. Anybody wants to tell me who is Larry Ellison? Again, in a chat message. Let's see. Yes, Larry Ellison. Anybody? Oracle. There you go. Fantastic. Good. So, Larry Ellison of Oracle has said that, Oracle founder, that's right. See things in the present, even if they are in the future. So, what's very important for you to do when you build your business is to be able to look at a, a plan that is drawn right from where you are towards the BHAG. We spoke about this earlier, the big, hairy, audacious goal. So if you are able to ensure that you can see your BHAG, then you can create a 3 to 5 year plan, then you can create an annual plan, then you can focus on a quarterly plan. And it's not about doing everything simultaneously, just about having that visual clarity. It's like standing at the base of the mountain and being able to see the peak and saying, that is where I want to go, right? knowing that, and that is very, very important as a business, that you should have that clarity. Now while going there, you might land up changing your path because you might face obstacles, you might face issues along the way, which is fine, and because of which you don't necessarily drop everything in absolute detail. It's a dynamic plan, but you need to know your end goal. You know where you want to go, you know where you want to achieve, what you want to do. And that BHAG is typically a goal that you do anything between 10 years to 25 years. I mean, this is the kind of long term that you have to be able to create for yourself. So when I spoke about the purpose for my business, which is to inspire a million people to be a better version of themselves by 2030, it is a 10-year goal that really inspires what I do, right? And then it ensures that I stay aligned to that goal. If I have to take a decision about anything, that I take a decision based upon does it align to this BHAG or no. If it doesn't, I don't do it. So this is how you can ensure that you have that end in mind when you start off, really speaking. So this is something which you need to be mindful of as you grow a business. Now, let me come on to something else right now. Again, Jim Collins, we already quoted him for BHAG right now. So Jim Collins has a wonderful quote that said, the essence of profound insight is simplicity. It's not about making things too complex. I mean, things can be as complex as you want them to be, but the essence of insight is all about simplicity. How can you reduce something to its essential simplicity? And how do you do that? Let's really look at it now as it is. So one more element that you really will understand as you will build a business is there are four fundamental pillars to your business growth. The first is people. The second is strategy. The third is execution. And the fourth is cash. So these are the four pillars that you have to focus upon independently within your business and build each element of it as you grow along. Like I said, this typically will happen by the time you've come to that 1 million to 10 million kind of growth. Below that, you might not necessarily focus too much on this. But once you start crossing that, these are the four pillars that you really strengthen if you really want to take your business. And that is where, in the space that I work in, the mid market companies, the 1 million to 10 million side of companies, helping them to bake and strengthen these pillars and to really help them to grow. And that's what I focus upon personally. So these are the four pillars. We will not go into this is by itself is a complete workshop series that I run for about 6 weeks. So obviously I'm not going to get into details of that right now. Something that you can read out about it if you want. There is a book that I'll share with you the name if you want to really know a lot more about this. Now I'll go to another very well-known person, Zig Ziglar. For a lot of you who don't know him, Zig Ziglar is one of the uh, best known sales consultants, the person who brought in a lot of sales processes and tools back in the year 2000 and stuff like that. So he's slightly older than a lot of you guys actually, as it is. So he really said, don't count the things you do, count the things that count, do the things that count, right? So it's not about counting what all you're doing. It's actually do the things that count. It's more about focusing. Wow, okay, I didn't see the timer showing me the cards earlier. I see I have only 1 minute to go. Fine, I'll take a couple of minutes and maybe I'll eat into a little bit of the Q&A time now in that case because I didn't see the timing cards earlier. Okay, so then because of that, what basically I'm going to leave you with a simple thought. This is the story of John Davison Rockefeller, not necessarily a story. So it's an example that should profoundly impact our approach towards what a business can really grow. So he founded the Standard Oil Company in 1870 and he ran it till 1897, that means for about 27 years, and remained its largest shareholders. He revolutionized the petroleum industry and through corporate as well as technological innovations was instrumental in a variety in widely disseminating and drastically reducing the cost of production of oil. Now, because he grew so large and so impactful in 1911, the US Supreme Court broke up his company into 34 separate entities. And amongst them are ExxonMobil and Chevron, which all of you know are the biggest companies in the oil space as it is, right? Now let's really look at what you can take away from Rockefeller. So he's considered the wealthiest of all the Americans all time and the richest person in modern history. Now his personal wealth was $900 million back then, which was 3% of the US GDP of $39.1 billion. Can you imagine that? 3%. Now, today's time, we regard Jeff Bezos as the richest person, the owner of Amazon. His value today is $186 million. That's his net worth. At 1913, if you now do it in 2020 terms, Rockefeller's estimated worth was $418 billion, which is more than twice of what Jeff Bezos and maybe three times of what you have as of also the Tesla founder, right? So at the end of the day, I started off with a success story. I'm ending off with a success story that you should be mindful of. There is a world of opportunity out there, and it's not only driven just by money. It's not only driven just by what you create as a valuation. It is driven by how do you change an industry, how do you change a market, how do you change people's lives. And both the examples I shared with you right in the beginning, Nitin and Nikhil Kamath, as well as if you look at Rockefeller, both of these are the examples that you should keep in front of you when you decide to embark on your journey, to really make an impact, to make a difference. With that, I end my session out here, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.